Ice storms are among the most destructive winter weather events. Unlike snowstorms, which deposit frozen precipitation that can often be cleared, ice storms involve freezing rain that coats surfaces with a solid layer of ice. Roads become hazardous, power infrastructure is strained, and trees fail under accumulated weight. The visual calm that often accompanies these storms contrasts sharply with their physical impact, which can persist for days or weeks after the precipitation ends. This channel focuses on explaining Earth's natural phenomena with clarity and accuracy. If you are interested in learning more about how our planet works, you may consider subscribing. An ice storm is defined by the presence of freezing rain. This occurs when liquid rain falls through sub-freezing air near the surface and freezes immediately upon contact. The result is a smooth, transparent glaze that adheres tightly to exposed surfaces. Meteorological agencies typically classify a storm as an ice storm when ice accumulation reaches at least 6 millimeters, though smaller amounts are sufficient to cause serious disruption. The formation of an ice storm depends on a specific vertical temperature structure in the atmosphere. Near the ground, a shallow layer of cold air must be present, with surface temperatures at or below the freezing point. Above this cold layer, there must be a region of warmer air where temperatures rise above 0 degrees Celsius. Precipitation begins as snow in the upper atmosphere. As it falls through the warmer layer, the snowflakes melt into liquid rain. When this rain passes back into the cold air near the surface, it becomes supercooled. It remains liquid despite being below freezing and solidifies only when it strikes a cold surface. This process allows ice to accumulate steadily over time. Each successive layer adds weight and thickness, increasing the strain on natural and built structures. Unlike snow, which can be compacted or removed, ice adheres firmly and is difficult to mitigate while temperatures remain low. The hazards associated with ice storms arise primarily from this accumulation. Roads and sidewalks become extremely slippery, reducing traction to near zero. Vehicle accidents increase sharply, and pedestrian injuries from falls become common. Travel often becomes impractical or impossible until conditions improve. Power systems are particularly vulnerable. Ice accumulation adds substantial weight to power lines and transmission equipment. Even modest ice thickness can translate into hundreds of kilograms of additional load on a single span of cable. When combined with wind, this weight can cause lines to sag, poles to fail, and entire sections of the grid to collapse. Power outages during winter conditions present secondary risks, including exposure to cold, loss of heating, and increased reliance on alternative energy sources. Trees and vegetation also suffer significant damage. Ice coats every branch and twig, increasing their mass and reducing flexibility. Branches bend beyond their structural limits and break. Falling limbs damage buildings, vehicles, and infrastructure, and frequently bring down power lines. In forested areas, ice storms can alter canopy structure and species composition, with effects that persist long after the ice is melted. The disruption caused by ice storms often extends well beyond the period of precipitation. Restoring electrical service can take days or weeks, particularly in heavily affected regions where access is limited by debris. Transportation networks may remain impaired, and cleanup efforts require coordinated responses from utility crews, emergency services, and local authorities. Ice storms are most common in mid-latitude regions where cold continental air masses interact with warm, moist air. In North America, they frequently affect the eastern United States, southern Canada, the Great Lakes region, and the Appalachian Mountains. In Europe, ice storms occur in parts of Central and Eastern Europe and in Scandinavia during transitional seasons. In Asia, they affect regions of China, Japan, and Central Asia. These storms typically occur in late autumn, winter, or early spring, when temperature gradients in the atmosphere are strongest. Several historical events illustrate the scale of damage ice storms can cause. In January 1998, a prolonged ice storm affected parts of eastern Canada and the northeastern United States. Ice accumulations exceeded 7 centimeters in some areas. more than 4 million people lost electrical power, and large sections of the power grid were disabled. Restoration efforts continued for weeks, and economic losses reached into the billions of dollars. In early 2008, a major ice storm struck southern China, a region with limited experience managing severe winter weather. Transportation systems were disrupted, power infrastructure failed across multiple provinces, and millions of people were stranded during a peak travel period. Agricultural losses were extensive, and recovery required significant national resources. If you find this explanation useful, leaving a like helps support the continued production of educational videos like this. Ice storms differ fundamentally from other types of winter precipitation. In snowstorms, frozen crystals fall and accumulate loosely, allowing for relatively efficient removal and causing less structural damage. In sleet storms, melted snow refreezes before reaching the ground and falls as ice pellets, which bounce on impact rather than coating surfaces. Ice storms are distinct in that liquid rain freezes only after contact, forming a continuous layer of ice that adheres to surfaces and amplifies damage. The ecological effects of ice storms extend beyond immediate physical damage. Wildlife may struggle to move or forage as ice coats the ground and vegetation. Birds face difficulty perching or accessing food sources. In forests, broken branches and toppled trees alter light penetration and nutrient distribution. While some ecosystems recover over time, repeated ice damage can weaken trees and change forest structure. Human health risks increase during and after ice storms. Power outages and cold conditions raise the risk of hypothermia, particularly among vulnerable populations. Improper use of generators and heating devices can lead to carbon monoxide exposure. Emergency response is often slowed by hazardous travel conditions and blocked access routes. Forecasting ice storms remains challenging. Small variations in atmospheric temperature profiles can determine whether precipitation falls as snow, sleet, or freezing rain. Meteorologists rely on a combination of weather balloon data, radar observations, surface measurements, and numerical models to assess risk. A temperature difference of 1 or 2 degrees Celsius can significantly alter outcomes, complicating advance warnings. Climate change may influence the frequency and distribution of ice storms. Warmer average temperatures increase the likelihood of winter precipitation falling as rain rather than snow, particularly during transitional seasons. This may create conditions more favorable for freezing rain in some regions, even as overall snowfall decreases. Research continues to examine how these changes may affect future winter storm patterns. Preparation and mitigation play a critical role in reducing the impact of ice storms. Infrastructure improvements, such as reinforced power lines and regular vegetation management near utilities, can reduce failure rates. Emergency planning and public awareness help communities respond more effectively when storms occur. At the individual level, preparedness includes maintaining emergency supplies, avoiding travel during freezing rain, and using backup power sources safely. Ice storms demonstrate how subtle atmospheric conditions can produce severe consequences. Though often quieter and less visually dramatic than other natural hazards, they pose significant risks to infrastructure, ecosystems, and human safety. Understanding how ice storms form and why they are destructive is essential for managing their impact in regions where they occur. Thank you for watching. For continued coverage of Earth's dynamic forces, you may subscribe and share this video with anyone interested in science and nature.